I was thinking back a little bit ago and telling some tales from my Baltimore days. Anytime I think about Baltimore, I think about how I got there. And I always wanted to be a nurse, just from the time I was a wee little on up. And but nice girls didn't go into nursing. They were considered to be loose girls. So I never gave up my desire to be a nurse. I just had to find a better way to go about trying to accomplish this. So I got a scholarship from high school to Louisiana College. And I don't know how I started out with this, but anyway, I'll keep it up. So there were two hills on Louisiana College, and this doesn't fit into anything anywhere. But one hill was Louisiana College. On one hill was Louisiana College, which was the Baptist school in the state. And on the other hill was an insane asylum. And it was just always expected that when you met someone new, they would have to ask you, now which hill do you live on? And gratefully, I never forgot which one. Nor how to get there for that matter. And I'll just throw this in because I think it's another quirk that you may or may not know about me. May or may not want to know about me, but it doesn't matter. I'm doing the talking, am I not? Okay. Well, I enjoyed walking in the rain. If it was not raining hard, if it was just a drizzle or something, and it rained a lot in Pineville on the other hill. So when it would rain, the city cemetery was just a perfect walk away. And if it was raining and I was not in class, I was probably walking the streets trying to get to the cemetery. I've always enjoyed walking through cemeteries to see names, see if any of them mean anything to me. Occasionally I have encountered some familiar names. I don't think I ever met a name. I don't believe. Could have, but I don't think. Anyway, I started out talking about Baltimore, didn't I? Okay. When I had finished one semester, I believe, one or two, Louisiana College lost its affiliation with the Baptist Hospital there in Elk. So the School of Nursing closed, and the students as a whole were transferred to New Orleans Charity Hospital, where, oh my, I'm sure they got a training. But I did not go to New Orleans. Our director of nurses at the time was a Hopkins grad. And she sought me out one day and said she wanted to talk to me. So I thought it was okay. But anyway, she said that she would like to sponsor me to go to Hopkins. Well, I didn't know where Hopkins was. I didn't know what you could do at Hopkins. I just didn't know. So I set out on a journey to learn something about Johns Hopkins. And I learned that it was one of the, always in the top 5 training hospitals in the nation. And I went and talked to Daddy about it. Daddy was not quite so concerned about my looseness as Mother was. But I talked to him about it and told him the situation. He said, well, let me think on it. So he got his little pad of paper and a pen. Can't you just see him with that pad of paper and a pen? And he was doing his monetary figuring, which always had to be concerned. It was a concern, a big concern. So after he had done a good bit of figuring and I'd done a good bit of stewing, he said, well, I tell you what, if your mother says you can go, you can go. I thought, oh my, Daddy might need to just go ahead and say no. But I did a little bit more figuring on my own. And Daddy was always having school board meetings in Boston, New York, places that he had never been and would never go on his own. And Mother did love to travel because we could dress up to travel. And Mother was not a physically pretty lady, but she carried herself so well. She was tall, about 5'9", I guess. And she just carried herself like she owned whatever part of the world she was in. Well, I must have done a pretty good sales job because she said, if it's okay with you, Dad, it's okay with me. So I bought my ticket to Baltimore on Greyhound bus. And for the next 44 hours, I rode non-stop by bus to Baltimore. Well, the biggest city I had ever seen, I guess, was Shreveport. And Shreveport, in the big scheme of things, it's not a very big city. No. Well, I remember arriving at the bus station and getting a cab and giving them the address of what was to be my home for the next 3 years. And it was a Hampton house at on Monument Street. Are you sure about that? So, of course, I didn't have any luggage. We didn't have things like that. You couldn't eat it and you couldn't sleep in it. So, and you couldn't wear it. So I had no luggage. But Mother had a flower shop. And she always got her flowers from a warehouse in Shreveport. And they came in long, big boxes, like you would expect to find glads in a big box. Well, that's what my clothes were packed in. And this taxi driver drove up to this 9-story, 3-wing brick castle. What can I say? And let me out. Well, here I am, but what do I do now? So there was I, probably in my saddle Oxfords and bobby socks, I feel sure, and not knowing a soul. Not anyone. I'd never been in a building the size of what my home was to be. I don't remember how the only real memory I have at that moment was of me in this huge space looking all around us. So what next? I didn't have a clue. But somebody got me squared away, I suppose. And then life began. And it really did begin for me. I enjoyed my time in Baltimore. We had it wasn't a tunnel, it was
Subway?
an underground path under the street from the dorm to the hospital, which was right across the street. And if I thought the dorm was rather immense, guess what the hospital was? When I finally, and I don't even know how or when it happened, that I walked into the hospital. When I got there, there was this huge statue of Jesus in the foyer that became my landmark. When I needed a little strength, I would go walk down and look at the statue of Jesus. And I know I never saw another as that made such an impact on me as that did, but it did. But anyway, while I was up there on Saturdays, if we didn't go to the library, and I don't even remember how I met Jennifer. I know that she was on the same wing of the dorm that I was on. But I would, I did know Billy Graham's name because that was when he was making his rounds everywhere, preaching the gospel. But we became friends, gratefully, and that was one of the better things that occurred to me too when I was in the big city, and it really was a big city. Another thing that I remember very clearly was going to class. I did not have any foreign language, and I wanted my degree. So I signed for a French class at Johns Hopkins University, which was on the other side of the big city. So what I did, through ignorance or whatever, was after I got off from work in the evenings, I would stand on a street corner and wait for a bus, ride the bus to class, and then quite late that night ride it back home. I wouldn't anymore do that today than a spook. But I did it then and was kept safe from harm. And I don't remember the first time that Mother and Dad made a trip up there. I think they were going to Atlantic City to one of Dad's school. Mother thought she was in heaven. She really did. She'd never seen things like this. She had been to New Orleans. I hadn't been to New Orleans. I had been to Shreveport. But anyway, if we were not, I lost my train of thought. If we were not at the library on a weekend, then we would be down at the pier. I loved watching the boats come in. I loved plundering through the kegs of dishes. It was carefree. I guess that's the word that is most imminent in my mind. I had never had any free time for me to myself. If I was not busy, Mother always had a job that she could find. She couldn't stand to look at idleness. Couldn't stand it. I think I learned more scripture by sitting on the floor at her feet on Saturday morning when I was a little bit tired and she still had things that had to be done. So I would get my Bible memory supplies, sit at her feet and memorize Bible verses. Well, that did okay. She approved of that. So, oh, there was one boy and I that always came out on top in any memory verses of any sort. And we had a lot of competitions because we didn't have anything else in school. So, and he and I were always numbers 1 and 2. And sometimes he was 1 and sometimes I was 1. But we were always at the top. And his name was Pete Shillette. What enters your mind when you hear just the name Pete Shillette?
Don't have one.
Tall, skinny, real quiet. That was Pete. But we had a good thing going. That was one of the real fun things about school that I remembered. It was fun. But then I was considered one of the 2 youngest members of my class at Hopkins. And I was considered that by the nursing staff. Well, that didn't bother me much. I'd always been pretty young. And but what did bother me was that I knew how to drive a car. And the hospital had a cottage for the students down in Sherwood Forest, which was very close to where's the Navy?
Annapolis?
Annapolis. It was very close to Annapolis. And they had a station wagon that for licensed drivers of their approval. I was young, not approved. We could go on days off down to Annapolis to the cottage and do whatever we wanted to do. That was a good thing. And from Baltimore to Annapolis, the road just hugged the Severn River. Pretty sure it's Severn, yeah. And it was really a pretty drive. And I loved going into town to Annapolis and watching the sailors do it all over there. Whatever it was they did.